College Football Enquirer with Steven Godfrey. I am Andy Staples. Ross Dellinger is hugging a toilet somewhere. Picked up something nasty in New Orleans.
Good to know that if I'm ever out for an unexpected illness, it will be mentioned in detail.
Now, we're going to talk about LSU and the transfer portal and LSU having as many coaches as possible working the transfer portal, even though some of those coaches were coaching for Ole Miss like 3 days ago. But let's start somewhere else in the SEC in the transfer portal, Steven Godfrey, because we've talked about this, and you and I talked about this before the show started.
Okay.
We want to have a transfer portal discussion that is really not for the recruitment. It is for the mainstream college football fan who wants to know why does all of this rigmarole matter. And I feel like you've gotten enough evidence in the last few days, the last few weeks, the last few months to understand why this matters.
Yes.
Why when a D2 quarterback from Ferris State commits to be the backup at Ole Miss out of the transfer portal
might be important.
Could be important later on. Why, when the quarterback from a 500 Cal team decides to go to Indiana, and you may not have known who else was looking at him during his recruitment, we'll get into that, that it may matter, that he might wind up holding the Heisman Trophy. He might wind up destroying Alabama in the Rose Bowl. So this matters quite a bit.
It does.
Quite a bit.
It matters, and yet, as the sort of everyman proxy on this program, I think people are still learning how to pick up on the portal and figure out what's important about it. Like, I've had a lot of just college football dads in the real world just say like, hey, I get it. I get that Fernando Mendoza, I didn't know who that guy was last year, and now he's quarterback of probably the best team left in our tournament. But am I really fired up right now about the Cincinnati quarterback? Am I why? Does my team need Brendan Sorsby? I think there's a lot that's kind of lost in translation about this on who to target, who to get excited about. I want to start in one place because I mentioned them on the last show, Andy. Will Stein at Kentucky is a really interesting study because one of the few coordinators that got a big-time job, right? Everything was biased towards head coaches and their experience. We obviously know what kind of offense he runs and the success that he's had at Oregon. He is going to flip Kentucky in short order, as you have to. We're going to talk about that in a second as well. So the idea of him kicking the tires on a Sam Levitt, that kind of feels like what we've seen in previous years where, man, Kentucky could be at least good on offense right out of the gate.
Right. They could. And if you look at their visitor list, they are trying to take some big old swings. Sam Levitt is there this weekend. So Sam Levitt, former Arizona State quarterback, probably the number one player in everybody's portal rankings. This is a guy that most coaches feel like if you put him on your team becomes instantly better. You saw how good that Texas Tech defense was all season. He's the one quarterback who really actually handled it and beat them. He beat them in spite of the fact that Arizona State did not have the level of talent that say Oregon did when they beat Texas Tech. But he's the one who instantly makes your program better. That's why everybody wants him. Kentucky was not a school that we were talking about in the Sam Levitt sweepstakes at first. We were talking about LSU. We were talking about Miami. We were saying, does Texas Tech try to get in on him? We did not. Texas Tech, of course, a big spender, so we already knew that they would do it. But we were thinking either previously identified big spender or somebody else who's kind of been in the mix for titles, for playoff appearances. Kentucky's none of these. Kentucky just fired Mark Stoops. Kentucky hit a hard reset on its program. Will Stein comes in, 36 years old. He is taking massive swings. He is trying to immediately make Kentucky good. And what have we said in this new era? If your coach gets up there and says, I need 3 or 4 years to build it, you should know you've already hired the wrong coach. You should pull the plug immediately. Sorry, I realize you haven't coached a game. You're fired.
It's somewhat insane to say that, but I can't argue that at all. No, you absolutely have to be prepared. So, okay, with that in mind, what does a successful portal look like if I am a Kentucky fan right now? Does it have to be just grabbing guys from other schools? Like, I want to transition this into Penn State because there's another methodology we've seen before, but that's when a head coach goes from one place to another. So if I'm Kentucky, I got to get a quarterback, right? And I got to probably pick up at least 2 or 3 like skill position guys, receivers, backs.
Yep. And understand that Will Stein can't take Oregon's roster. Like, he's just not going to be able to do that. Maybe 1 or 2 players will follow him from Oregon, but most of them are just going to stay where they are. So they're going to have to spread this net pretty wide. And so having Will Stein there, he is going to clearly go after the big fish here. Sam Leavitt was there Saturday on a visit. I believe he's also going to visit LSU. That's still apparently part of the plan. But we all know those plans change if somebody decides they like where they're at. The fact that Kentucky emerged as quickly as it did, and he's there like within hours of the portal opening, is a good sign. He was watching film with Will Stein on Friday night. So I do think that is a signal that they're trying hard. CJ Baxter, the former Texas running back, another one that's I believe visiting this weekend, but he's definitely one of their targets. But they are definitely targeting guys that I think you would expect an LSU or an Auburn or a Tennessee or SEC schools, traditionally more successful, traditionally more willing to devote resources to football. This means Kentucky is devoting massive resources to football. They want to win. And I think you have to. I think doing, what they just did, the firing of Mark Stoops, and God bless Mark Stoops for bailing them out on their terrible buyout deal, because Mark Stoops could have demanded $38 million within 60 days of being fired. And he was willing to say, you can spread this over a few years, guys. You've been good to me. And I think that kind of allows them to do this, because if they'd had to write that check, I don't think they're doing this.
I'm only laughing because Mark's made a healthy penny from Kentucky already. And he's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be down at Keeneland anyway. You just want to do installments. That's fine. You know where to find me. I think Mark was ready to maybe shift his day planner, so to speak. Okay, so you come in with a young, dynamic coach and you want to be serious. You make the splash. I understand that trend. Okay. Before we get to the Penn State, Iowa State shuffle, a team that's still playing in this tournament is Indiana. Fernando Mendoza will not be the quarterback next year. Am I going to go against what I've been taught about consistency and development at the most important position on the field and just assume that whoever Indiana pulls, and it looks like it's going to be Hoover from TCU maybe, are we just plugging him in as the next big thing? Are we going to see Indiana stay this consistent by flipping its most important positions every year in the portal?
I think we're going to trust Curt Cignetti to know what the hell he's doing.
Okay.
But I also remember there will be more turnover in Indiana this year than last year. Indiana kept a lot of what was best about that 2024 team. The team, the only big loss Indiana had after 24 was Curtis Rourke. Okay. And I think you'd say they upgraded with Fernando Mendoza. But they're going to lose Elijah Surratt. Omar Cooper can go pro. Carter Smith, the left tackle, is probably going to go pro. He's probably going to be a very high draft pick. Pat Coogan's done. That's the center that they got from Notre Dame. Riley Nowakowski, their tight end. Roman Hemby, their running back. Mendoza. Like, those are all guys that have got to go. Tyreek Tucker's a fourth-year player, the D tackle. Mikhail Kamara is a senior. So they are going to lose a lot to the NFL. So it's going to be up to Curt Cignetti to replace these people. I do trust his judgment in the portal, and I'll tell you why. Fernando Mendoza, you mentioned probably not a lot of people in the mainstream college football fandom were aware of Fernando Mendoza other than, that's the Cal starting quarterback, and wasn't Cal 6-6. So Fernando Mendoza, when it became apparent that he was going to the portal, his hometown team, Miami, came after him. The other team that came after him very hard, besides Indiana, was Georgia. Georgia was very in on Fernando Mendoza, wanted Fernando Mendoza to come. The reason Mendoza didn't go to Georgia is because at the time, Carson Beck had not announced he was leaving. I think the Georgia coaches were probably aware that he was leaving, but he hadn't announced it yet. And then Gunnar Stockton was about to make his first start in the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame. And so they weren't clear on whether Gunnar Stockton, because at that point, if you're Fernando Mendoza, you're looking at it like, well, if Gunnar Stockton leads them to a national title, that job's not open. And my window has closed and I'm stuck there. So he looks at that and goes, okay, Indiana's saying I'm going to start. I'm going to Indiana. And that's what happened. So you have to kind of look at who looks at these people. Who is Lane Kiffin going after quarterback? The Sam Levitt thing. Lane Kiffin's going after Sam Levitt. If Lane Kiffin likes the guy, Lane Kiffin's going after Brendan Sorsby.
Yes.
Who we think is going to land at Texas Tech, the Cincinnati quarterback. If Lane Kiffin, who's really good at IDing transfer quarterbacks, thinks he's good, probably pretty good.
Okay. So going back to the original question at hand, we should trust in Cignetti, and regardless of the fact that you don't know his name, you're developing like a track record of success here. Again, this is also early. It's really hard to sort of discern context. One thing.
Well, and the other thing, our producer TJ asked, does Indiana have anybody they're developing? Glad you asked, TJ. There is Alberto Mendoza, Fernando's little brother, who is their current backup.
Familiar name. Okay, so there will be, I guess here's where I wanted to take something like Indiana, which has been the most successful sort of like portal case study. Remember a few years ago, I wrote a column for the Washington Post about the success Mike Norvell was having at plugging in like skill position players. He grabbed a guy like Jared Verse from Albany, right?
Yes.
The Michigan State wide receiver, whose name I can't remember all of a sudden.
Keon Coleman.
Plays for the Bills now. We thought that was the best template. It seems like you could actually be more aggressive than even that Florida State team was, so long as you can develop some sort of culture or consistency. I keep looking for like, hey, what's the blueprint here? What's the best means by which to go to do this? Because you still have the Georgias of the world are still predominantly recruiting high schools, right? They don't want to fool around too much in the portal with like lead key players. Okay.
Yep.
So that is still a path to success.
Well, I'd say there's three kinds of teams.
Okay.
Three kinds of teams right now. So you have your Georgia, Ohio State, that is mostly out of high school. We're going to try to develop these guys. There is your Ole Miss that is mostly portal. Now, Indiana's different because they had players follow a coach.
Right.
So that's like a lot of those players were developed by Kurt Cignetti at James Madison. So it's a little bit different. Ole Miss, we're going to predominantly take guys out of the portal. We will develop a few, but what we need, we're mostly going to get out of the portal. And then there's the mix. And I think the mix is probably where most programs should land.
Okay.
The mix is Miami. Miami is we're gonna portal when we really need it and at very key positions. So Miami, I think, is determined they're going to be a portal quarterback program. They've gone Cam Ward, Carson Beck. I suspect they're gonna sign another big portal quarterback this year instead of handing it off to Emory Williams. So that, and then they had to revamp the defense. The secondary stunk in 2024.
Yeah, new scheme.
So they go into
right.
Yeah. So Corey Heatherman comes in. They go and get guys like Zachariah Poyser from Jacksonville State. Like they go get guys that can plug in immediately and play. But who are the best players on Miami? Like if you asked an NFL scout, name me the three best players on Miami's team.
They're high school recruits.
Reuben Bain, Francis Maui-Noah, Malachi Tony. Yeah. All guys who signed out of high school.
Okay. All right. That makes sense to me. I want to talk a little bit about when we're importing, for lack of a better term, because it's funny. You can go all the way from South Dakota State to Penn State now with the way that we are finding success. So as a quick aside, I know you wanted to mention Jake Dickert. Jake Dickert, he grafts a good bit of Washington State onto Wake Forest this year. It works out great. Yep. I know we've already talked about this, but Drew Mestamaker is committed to Oklahoma State. Yeah. The success at Oklahoma State this year was definitely Mestamaker and Morris as an offensive play caller.
North Texas, yeah.
Sorry, North Texas. But then North Texas imports its defense last year from Sam Houston State, helps them elevate. Now you've got Jimmy Rogers going from Wazoo to Iowa State. He's already starting to backfill. By the way, I just saw this on the wire. Jalen Raynor, the Arkansas State quarterback, is committed to Iowa State. If you haven't watched that kid, he's super fun to watch. Meanwhile, as expected, Andy, we have maybe the cream of the crop, the top end of the talent-wise or star-wise on the Iowa State roster, predictably, they're going to Penn State.
Correct.
I should feel, if I'm a Penn State fan, excited, I guess, about not so much about maybe the raw star talent that's coming in from Ames, Iowa, but it's a consistency play for Matt Campbell. Because at the very beginning of this segment, Andy, you said you can't say it's 2 to 3 years anymore, right? So I'm Matt Campbell. I'm stepping into a situation where we fired a coach.
You especially can if you're him.
Right. So you have to feel encouraged as a Penn State fan that there's going to be culture and message, a language consistency of having guys. It's the exact same thing we talked about with Signetti. We've talked about it several places now. So that is sort of check mark number one for brand new Penn State coach Matt Campbell. Still funny to say. But at the same time, they're going to lose wattage in terms of star talent walking out the door, right? Like that has to be expected as well.
Yes. But it's not a mass exodus from Penn State. You notice that they're not losing everybody they cared about.
Yeah.
A lot of good players are staying there because they like going to school at Penn State. They like the program, which in general has produced lots of good NFL players. And probably they liked Matt Campbell's message when he got there. So what he's doing, he's not porting all of Iowa State to Penn State. This is what Curt Cignetti did. He didn't bring all of James Madison to Indiana.
Right.
He brought the players that he believed would be able to compete at a higher level to Indiana. So Rocco Beck, the quarterback, coming to Penn State. So now you have a veteran quarterback who is ready to roll. Benjamin Brahmer, the tight end, he's coming to Penn State. And you've seen the Penn State tight ends all leave. Like Luke Reynolds is probably going to wind up with James Franklin at Virginia Tech. You've got an offensive tackle, Will Tompkins, a young offensive tackle coming from Iowa State. That's someone Matt Campbell probably ID'd as, you know what? We hit on this dude in recruiting. He can play in the Big Ten. He'll be awesome.
Okay.
That's what they're doing. So don't look at it like, oh, it's just going to be Iowa State moved east. No, it is going to be the parts of Iowa State that Matt Campbell believes can play in the Big Ten. Now, we have to trust his eval on this.
Yes.
But of the coaches in America whose evals I would trust, Matt Campbell is certainly one.
Okay, a couple things here. You talked about mass exodus. I haven't seen mass exodus in any surprising place yet, although this is where I'm the least experienced and I'm learning the way that everyone else is. Like mass exodus from a place like Oklahoma State after Gundy, that makes sense, right? Are we seeing mass exodus this early on from one place that's surprising, that would indicate some sort of like poor overall health of the program?
I haven't really seen it. No.
Okay.
Like Iowa State has mass
Makes
exodus.
sense.
That's because Matt Campbell left. I remember somebody tweeted at me like, "You, this is a looming problem in college football. You need to really get into what's going on at Iowa State." I'm like, no, it's not a looming problem. The best coach in program history just left, and the guys who were recruited by the best coach in program history thought they'd be coached by the best coach in program history.
Yep.
And since the new hire, and this is no offense to Jimmy Rogers, but he's probably not going to be the best coach in program history. So they're going to go somewhere else.
No, not for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what I would also discern is this. We are demanding now more of an NFL skill set from the head coaching position, a couple other key staffers in the building, where we're talking about talent evaluation the way that we almost would in a free agency and draft sense because of the tight window that we have, the demand to win immediately. Again, this all sounds very NFL-esque, right? It's less.
I wanted to point that out. It's not as NFL, like in terms of what it can do. Like one big NFL free agent signing or a couple big NFL free agent signings usually doesn't change a team's fortunes that much.
Yes, correct.
This is more like the NBA, where you can completely change your team's trajectory in one offseason.
Okay. All right. So, but then that would mean it's even more impactful that you hit, as we say on these guys. You understand either you see something that no one else does, and or this guy who might be of medium quality, considered to be medium quality in the portal, will excel because of the schematic situation you're going to put him in. And this is where it gets really cloudy, I think, for the average fan to say, all right, well, like, Brendan Sorsby Cincinnati was all right. Like, I probably didn't watch that team. How do I know who am I getting here? Because we also have a healthy amount of quarterback transfer busts now in the last couple of years. And so I don't know if there's a way to discern, hey, we know this is gonna work. What you're saying is if Kiffin likes him, we should probably get excited, or if Cignetti likes him, we should probably get excited.
Yeah, I think we need to trust the people whose eyes have not lied to us before. I think that's the key. And so it's still a crapshoot. It's just like, quarterbacks moving up a level. Like when quarterbacks go from high school to college, when quarterbacks go from college to the NFL, it can completely change everything. Like you can completely flop, even if you had what looked like the perfect skill set. Like, and also the reverse of that, you have the Trinidad Chambliss situation where nobody saw that coming.
Right.
No, not even the people who saw him at Ferris State for years saw that coming.
Right. And he may end up being an outlier ultimately in how we sort of understand the context of this, because it's such an extreme case study. I'm not necessarily, look, I'm pro all level of football or whatever. I'm not saying maybe don't copy the blueprint of like, hey, let's go find a D2 quarterback and assume that we're going to be in the college football semifinal. Like, that's probably not going to happen.
See, that's what Mike Gundy would have done. He'd be like, "Oh, you can do it with a D2 quarterback? I'll do that. That's better."
That's why Mike Gundy's currently unemployed. To go through your database on On3, the overwhelming majority of guys in are the quarterbacks that we've discussed and or guys coming off of a major regime change. There's not a lot of like, oh gosh, why are there 16 guys jumping in here? Yet, at least. I know the portal's still open. We've got a couple weeks.
And you want to know the other part? If you're looking at the top rated ones, you're not seeing a lot of big guys. Big guys.
Oh, okay.
I kind of believe this. Big guys in general, don't like to move.
Correct.
When big people find a place they're comfortable, they don't want to. They don't want to pack up and move.
6'5", 230. I can. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, GMs aren't dumb. I realized that when NIL started, I would get all these questions from listeners and readers about, well, what happens when the running back or the quarterback are making so much more than the star left tackle? I'm like, they won't. Because
they won't for long.
Yeah. So, people take care of their big people. One thing I'm hearing a lot of, though, and this is, if you look at the top of the rankings, you're not going to see these people. The programs that have done well have the portal already, that would like to improve quickly, when they go get big people, and specifically, I mean offensive big people, offensive linemen, some of them are saying, we will not take a portal offensive lineman who is younger than 22, who has started fewer than 40 games. Because the place where it makes the biggest difference, whether somebody's 23 years old or somebody's 18 years old, is the line of scrimmage. And specifically on the offensive line. And guess what? The 5-star recruiting programs that produce these 3-year and gone NFL guys, they're always going to be young there. Georgia, Ohio State were much younger there than Indiana, for example.
Okay.
So get old, stay old is a basketball term, but it has become a football term.
Okay. So if I'm Georgia and I'm Ohio State, what you're telling me is that I'm recruiting offensive line talent at a high school that's so talented, they're going to be here and gone into the league. Therefore, I need... But they also need time. Like, even if you recruit a 5-star offensive lineman, the chances of him being a good offensive lineman in the SEC or the Big Ten as a freshman, very slim. Okay.
Like, the 23-year-old who started 40 games in the Big 12 and then transferred to the Big 10 school is going to be better than him right now. He will not ultimately be better than him, but he's better than him right now.
But you still take the consensus 5-star lineman out of high school.
You have to.
Okay,
because if you hit on him,
it feels like a paradox. Then it feels like everybody's managing a mash offensive line of like you can't philosophically be one or the other if you're going to be successful at the highest level.
Well, here's what I would say: if you're rich, keep recruiting the really good young ones.
Yeah, no doubt.
If you're not rich, get the old ones, because that's your only chance to have a good offensive line.
Okay, but if I'm Georgia, maybe I have a smattering. If I'm Ohio State,
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. Michigan in 2023 had 2 starting offensive linemen that they pulled out of the transfer portal. Ladarius Henderson from Arizona State, the left tackle, and I'm blanking on the center's name, but they got him from Stanford, who had 1 year of eligibility remaining. And they plugged them in. Now, they had older players along their offensive line already who they had developed, but instead of playing the highly recruited blue chip redshirt freshman, they went with the 5th-year guy who'd started a ton of games in another league.
So then it's almost philosophically we still have to develop these guys because we have to be effective in high school recruiting, but is this year win now? Okay, so this is the Pat Coogan thing that you talked about on the last episode, right? So Pat Coogan is someone who is a win now asset. Obviously, look at Indiana, look at Notre Dame last year. Right. But Notre Dame has maybe a better long-term investment coming back at that position, and that's how...
Well, Notre Dame, Ashton Craig was actually the starter.
Right.
Before he got hurt, and then Coogan had to slip in, fill in for him, and then proved himself that way.
Okay. Fascinating only because it's not like there's a right or wrong answer here. That's what's terrifying.
Nope. And the problem is you can be right until you're wrong.
Yeah.
As a coach.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, especially with O-line play too, and I asked a couple of O-line coaches about this when this whole process started, was our language has to be somewhat more universal because now we're importing guys who are coming from completely different systems. We have to be more flexible in general. And yeah, this is fascinating only because I can't sum this segment up and saying, hey, this is the way to do it. It really is contextual to your own situation and what your expectations are in year one. Well,
and it's almost like this universe has only existed for 4 years. And really, this universe has only existed for a year and a half with the rev share. The rev share is actually 7 months old, but people were preparing for it a year out. So it's really a year and a half that this particular method of roster construction has existed. And so nobody actually knows the right way. There's not enough data. You just got to try to figure it out on your own.
This is terrifying, by the way. And this is the kind of uncertainty. Well, I mean, this is the uncertainty that everybody, I think it's a lot of the complaints about about NIL and portal. They started off on the moral grounds of like, hey, it's college, we shouldn't pay. I think it's evolved to a lot of fans. At least I get this question is, I'm fine with this if the dust can settle long enough for us to figure out like what to expect and how to discern if a program's headed in a good or bad direction.
You've heard Ross, like the people who were going to get a congressional law, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
The people who were wish casting are now starting to deal with reality on reality's terms. They will get to the point where there's a CBA. There won't be this kind of movement then.
Right.
Because there will be contracts that lock people down.
Yeah. By the way,
actually be enforced.
Yeah. If Ross wasn't on assignment on the toilet right now, I would have asked. Like Mestamaker, I thought one of the interesting deals about Drew Mestamaker going from North Texas is it's a 2-year deal. I saw Pete Nakos report that, and I'm like, oh, there's phraseology that we haven't seen. It's a
Texas Tech last year signed some people to 2-year deals.
Yeah. So if we lean towards more consistency, I think it might help the market settle and people's expectations to align accordingly. Until then, from what you're telling me, it feels like here's a couple of things I want to take away from this. We're going to have one team that looks sterling, like almost like a Penn State situation that busts come 2026 season. And then we're going to have some type of Mendoza, Indiana situation. Yeah. Someone right now is assembling in a way that we cannot forecast their success.
Right. Okay. And our producer TJ asks also, should we go back to the limits of how many times the players can transfer? And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that ask the same thing. That's illegal. That's illegal.
Labor law, baby.
It's a violation of the Sherman Act. So now, if you have a CBA, you can have a rule that says you get one free transfer, and then next time you transfer, you sit out a year. You can, because the players will have agreed to it.
Yes. By the way, if I'm hypothetical player X and I am recruited, let's just say out of the DMV area by Charles Huff, this young dynamic coach, and I spend a year at Marshall, and I followed Coach Huff to Southern Miss, and now I'm following him because I am seeing this now in the roster switch. Like,
to Memphis.
Now I'm going to go to Memphis. If he takes Memphis to the playoff next year, and the right ACC job like a Maryland or Virginia or something like that opens, I should absolutely be able to, number 4, sorry, I counted like a German, go and go to that ACC school with him and do 4 schools in 4 years, because Huff did it too, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that, Steven Godfrey, because we need to talk about coaches on the move and coaches kind of caught in the middle of a move. That's right. We're going to talk about Lane Kiffin again. And before that, though, I do want to remind you, if you'd like to watch me and Steven Godfrey kibitz and imagine what Ross Dellinger looks like right now, please don't do that. Go to yahoosports.tv, iPhone, Android, tablet, any tablet, laptop, yahoosports.tv. That is where you can watch all the shows from the Yahoo Sports Network. Plus, if you just turn on your smart TV, that Yahoo Sports Network icon is probably on your home screen, and you can watch it there. That's fast TV. That's fast. Free ad-supported television. But anytime, yahoosports.tv. We'll be right back talking Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss, and who's coaching the Rebels in the Fiesta Bowl against Miami. We'll talk about it when we come back. We're back at the College Football Enquirer, and of course, we can't have a day go by where we don't talk about what Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss are doing parallel to one another, intersecting with one another. This is such an unusual situation, Godfrey, because we've seen situations, and we have a situation in the playoff right now where we mentioned Will Stein earlier, who's the new Kentucky head coach. He's also the Oregon offensive coordinator. He'll be coaching Oregon against Indiana in the Peach Bowl, as one does, as we've seen plenty of coordinators do. In fact, the only coordinator who ever got fired in the middle of something like that was Lane Kiffin.
It's Lane Kiffin, yeah. It's amazing that Oregon has both coordinators working actively as head coaches of other institutions in the Power Four, and Ole Miss is somehow messier. Of course. Like, we haven't heard anything out of Eugene, right? They're getting it done.
No.
They're getting it done.
Yeah, Tosh Lapoy is going to Cal.
Yeah.
But the difference is nobody's going to one of Oregon's bitter. It's not like somebody got hired as the Washington coach.
Dan Lanning is the Washington coach, and Oregon is 2 games away from a national championship. Correct.
Right, exactly. That would be a little different story, and I think it would probably be handled in similar fashion to what we're seeing with Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. But Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator for Ole Miss, is definitely coaching Ole Miss through the rest of the playoff. The rest of the offensive staff, minus a few who are still staying in Ole Miss, but the offensive staff who is going to LSU with Lane Kiffin ultimately is up in the air. Kevin Smith, the running backs coach, sent a text message to Chris Lowe, my On3 coworker, saying that he plans to be coaching in the Fiesta Bowl, that he plans to finish it out with Ole Miss, which could be the Fiesta Bowl only, or if they beat Miami, they could be playing the national title game. And let's be clear here, Godfrey.
Yes.
They can definitely beat Miami. This is not, both these games feel like pretty good coin flips.
Pretty interesting that Miami's head coach said Ole Miss is the most talented team they'll play this season. That was an interesting comment.
Considering they just beat Ohio State, yeah.
So on the last episode of this program, I relayed a message that I had spoke to someone shortly after the Sugar Bowl at Ole Miss, and they said we're a little worried about what he does next, talking about Lane, because you had this moment that I think it's fair to say a lot of people in Oxford didn't particularly think would happen, beating Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and it's growing increasingly apparent that Lane Kiffin, the former Ole Miss head coach, didn't really think Pete Golding was going to lead the Rebels to victory, and therefore his on loan offensive staff would have almost certainly left New Orleans directly for Baton Rouge, and then been 110% committed to working the portal for the Tigers. Now that is not the case, this is a very simple situation to analyze, because I've heard this directly from Ole Miss. If Charlie Weiss Jr. stays and he's calling the plays for the next potentially 2 games for Ole Miss, they are not worried about any other piece of personnel on the coaching side. That's it.
Well, that's what I was trying to explain to somebody the other day. Like, all of these big schools, especially big SEC and Big Ten schools, they have so many analysts who do so much of the work during the season.
Yes.
Who understand what the position coaches are doing, and in a lot of cases are doing a lot of the work the position coaches do, that they have so much face-to-face contact with the players, it probably doesn't feel that different for the players.
Correct. Yes. You had someone like Joe Judge that you're able to tap, a former New York Giants head coach, and elevate here. It's not like they won't have bodies on the sidelines telling the receivers like what to do. That's not going to happen.
This isn't a football movie where there's only 3 assistant coaches. It doesn't work that way.
Correct. Yes. This is not going to be something that the average fan would discern in terms of like on-field outcome, unless Charlie Weiss Jr. is not calling this offense against Miami. I want to be 110% clear about that. So that's the only thing you have to pay.
Yes, which he is.
Yes. And
now,
is
Charlie Weiss Jr. focused entirely on that? No, he was at LSU helping entertain Brendan Sorsby, the Cincinnati quarterback transfer, on a visit.
Yes.
This weekend.
Now, before you clutch your pearls in Oxford, aside from the fact that this is an unprecedented situation, I watched a lot of these nonsense bowl games, or I kind of half watched them. I think people would be shocked to know, look, I know this is different because you're playing for a national title, and I get that. This time of year, I think people would be shocked to know where the focus is at, because college football is a personnel game. This portal has opened. This portal has to be the focus for these programs and these coaches, okay? So Pete Golding right now, the head coach of Ole Miss, is also focused on the portal. He's not 100
butt off for Ole Miss.
He's not 100% dedicated to Miami. By the way, guess what? The Miami staff is not 100% dedicated to Ole Miss. You can't be. This is where the complaint, Andy, I have some sympathy. I don't have sympathy when you're making a mercenary move like Kiffin did, and we could, you're using that as a reason why.
I also don't have sympathy when the coaches were the ones who wanted the portal in January.
Yes.
Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Right.
Because if all of them wanted it in April, it would be in April. And then they wouldn't be dealing with this right now.
Maybe it's because it's January 4th as we record this, but just you mentioning that feels so inherently satisfying as a member of the media, because I've talked about this a little bit on our show. I've talked about this a lot just across college football media. One of the things that's killing the sport right now, it's the calendar, but it's just the fact that even we can't accurately display to people, hey, this is going on, this is good. There's too much that's mashed together. If you had a window outside of play where the portal could open and close, think about the media coverage we could afford to that. Think about how clean that could be, let alone having national title contenders distracted.
Now, I don't think they should decide their calendar based on what's easiest for us or best for us, though that is, it's easiest for us and best for us because it's also easiest and best for the fan.
Correct.
To consume. But that's, again, probably shouldn't be the main reason they care about that. The main reason they should care about that is, instead of trying to do double duty while you're trying to win a national title and having extremely awkward situations like this one, you could just not have that.
That's what I'm getting at. I think it's hurting the overall product. And this is, how many times do I have to invoke NFL comparisons as we kind of quietly march towards whatever this semi-pro sport is going to be? But the NFL is exceptional at this because it is consumer oriented. They make people care about the combine. The combine is dreadfully boring.
Dudes in their underwear running.
College
jumping.
I mean, look, we still have 24-hour cable networks dedicated to college sports. Think about how much they could invest in the month of April after the basketball tournament is over on all these league networks into the portal, right? It could be celebrated the same way NFL free agency is. So, yeah, I'm not advocating it just because it's simple on the consumer side. It would also take away so much anxiety that is plaguing the 4 teams that are playing for a national title right now, all the way down to various programs and states of transition.
Well, and that's the other thing, because depending on where you are in the food chain, you're probably still filling out your coaching staff.
That's a wonderful point. I'm going to get on a plane in 6 days and go to AFCA. And I'm going to meet with people I haven't seen in a while and catch up with people I haven't seen in a while. And it's going to be on every branch of the food chain. Okay. So it's not just assistants that at schools that, it's going to be young guys who are trying to get a job here. Or they're trying to do this or trying to do that. And every one of them, if they even get to go to this convention, the reason they go is to try and get a job usually, or trying to get a better job, or try and network for a better job. They can't do that because they're at their respective campuses right now hosting fighting to keep somebody from going in the portal. Like, all of this needs to be separated out literally no one benefits from this right now.
Yeah. So Bruce Feldman and Max Olson did this incredible story when we all worked together at The Athletic, where I can't remember what coaching change it was, but they took one firing and then the subsequent hiring.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And figured out how many different moves down the line. Mm-hmm. And so the following year, Bruce got really busy and couldn't do it. So they had me and Max Olson do it using the Clay Helton firing at USC. So Clay Helton getting fired, Lincoln Riley getting hired, and then and so we did it several months later, and so we kept going down the chain, and it was probably, I think it was February when we did it. I ended up trying to figure out who the last coach in the chain was, and there was one job still open, and I called the guy who was hiring for that job. I was like, "You realize this is the last job until you hire, and then it could be somebody else's problem." So
creating some separation there just makes sense for everybody involved. I think people.
But it was like D2. D2.
The trickle down here is amazing because also it's not even just the coaching positions now, because it's as this coaching position opens, it's going to lure maybe a kid into the portal that maybe not would have been in the portal, and you're dipping into the FCS, you're dipping into Division II. Everybody feels this. That's why Michigan terrified when Michigan opened unexpectedly. There were so many people terrified at the entire machine kind of lurching to life again. Now, it didn't really happen to that magnitude because Utah already basically had a replacement in place. But that could have kickstarted the whole thing again. You know,
think about if you're a BYU fan, losing Jay Hill as your DC, like you weren't expecting that. Right. And so that sucks. But yes, if someone goes to the NFL, like Marcus Freeman's not going to go to the NFL. He said he's coming back to Notre Dame.
Right.
But let's say somebody does, like tomorrow, Monday, a bunch of NFL jobs will open. If some sitting college coach goes to the NFL, this happens again. All of it.
Yeah. So it's when Kirby goes to the Falcons, right, Andy?
Oh, stop it.
I'm not. That's not wish casting. That's just trolling.
Speaking of the SEC, we do need to discuss the SEC's bowl record, not against itself. The SEC has 2 bowl wins against itself. Texas carrying the flag by beating Michigan. Everybody else, whoo boy.
Did you watch any of these lower tier ones? Like, did you watch the Duke's Mayo Bowl?
The Mayo Bowl? You know how I feel about Jake Dickard and Wake Forest,
right? Okay, so you were tuned in on that one.
They have done a really good job in year one. Really good job.
They really have. But we're talking about the SEC right now.
Now Mississippi State should not have been in a bowl game anyway because they were 5-7.
That was it. That was
they were filling in for an opt out. Yeah.
And by the way, if I'm let's start there and let's give all the sympathy in the world to Ross's alma mater. I'm 5-7. My in-state rival's playing for a national championship. I lost the Egg Bowl to end the season. I was in so many close games this year. Right? Couldn't find a way to win these games. Jeff Levy, by the way. That's who I am. I don't want to go deal with a bowl game. I don't want to have to go deal with this. No one in Starkville is gonna hail me a conquering hero if I beat Wake Forest in Charlotte in early January. Nobody cares. So think about all the things that Mississippi State needs right now. Mississippi State does not need a Duke's Mayo Bowl win. And that reflection of priority, I think, was felt. And I'm not excusing these losses. I'm not, because
you giant SEC homer.
If I'm an Iowa fan, I want to be clear. That was the best Vanderbilt product possible. Yeah, and you beat them.
You need to judge these games on their individual merits.
Yeah.
And Iowa, like, I will tell you right now that Iowa Vandy game, which similar to the Illinois South Carolina game last year between 2 very good teams from those conferences, should shape the way you look at the rankings next year.
Yes.
Because perhaps the Big Ten was better than you thought, and the SEC was not as good as you thought.
Okay.
Or the middle of the Big Ten. Obviously, the top of the Big Ten we thought was awesome. But
I want to have this conversation when Ross is back, and I want to use the playoff. I think the playoff is the means by which I agree with you.
Iowa pushed the 2 teams playing in the Peach Bowl, the 2 Big Ten teams playing in the Peach Bowl, one of which will be playing for the national title, one of which may win the national title.
Yeah.
Push them to their absolute limits.
Yes,
Iowa was a very good team.
I totally agree. I do believe now that this year, and again, scant amount of data, I keep saying this, we are leaning some sort of baked-in SEC bias, not to the top, maybe not to the bottom, like to the upper middle class, and it's the
middle, yeah.
And we're paying it's paying out incorrectly because of the Alabama and Oklahoma results this year. I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Big Ten has a case.
That's the thing. If and not just the Big Ten. if you're looking at that with a little more kind of doubtful eye toward the SEC,
Yeah.
Notre Dame gets in over Alabama. Alabama's not 9
Should have.
after that. Yeah, Alabama is 11.
Yes.
Miami's 9 and Notre Dame's 10.
So, okay, here's the deal. This bowl record can reflect a lot of different conversations. And so I want to be clear that I started with, hey, they don't care, or hey, they're busy and distracted. Yes, if you're 5-7 Mississippi State. I know for a fact Frank Wilson wanted to go out with a win for LSU and did not. They lost to a great team in Houston. By the way, it's so important and so satisfying if you're the University of Houston to beat LSU at anything. Those schools are probably share a proximity more than people realize if you're not from that part of the country.
They share recruiting proximity for sure. The Venn diagram of their recruiting territories is a big overlap.
So LSU's largest non-Louisiana alumni base is the city of Houston. And a lot of that has to do with Katrina, but it's very, very important. So Virginia, Missouri, like we could talk about all these games individually. I'm not like kind of hand waving away these results. I think they definitely matter. It's a multitude of things. The deprioritization, I still didn't get it, of bowls for non-playoff teams has never been more apparent. Okay, so if I'm Missouri, I just don't care. Right? If I'm LSU in the middle of a major transition,
Virginia
I just don't
care either. But
Andy, huge but. I went on and did an hour of local radio here the morning after Tennessee lost the Music City Bowl. They needed to win that game, dude.
Oh, they cared.
They cared. There were that is the exception, okay? The idea of like, oh, we lost Illinois because we're just distracted. Nah, dog. You needed to win that game. Trust me. There is some angst around that program. Now, there's always angst around Tennessee.
The feelings about Josh Heupel changed considerably for that fan base in that game.
Yes, yes, it did.
Yeah, so it does matter. And so don't let anybody tell you it doesn't matter. Like Ken Seals, bowl season mattered for Ken Seals, getting that start for the team he always grew up rooting for, TCU, and he was the backup. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, Godfrey, I didn't realize he was still playing college football. I thought he was out of eligibility because I remember him starting as a freshman at Vanderbilt. I thought his eligibility ended after last year. Was not aware he was still there. And then he's beating USC because Josh Hoover's in the portal. Yeah. Like it matters.
TJ
it matters
Finley's,
for all these guys.
It's the TJ Finley. It's the Jeff Sims. It's the they're always, as far as I'm concerned, until proven otherwise, they're always playing somewhere. Much bigger and more important conversation that I was going to table is it's not just blaming the selection committee. I think we shoulder a little bit of this blame. But going into 2026, like I would start with, oh, well, you made the SEC championship, therefore you have to be in the playoff no matter what. Yeah. Like we could start there. I think we in the media should not say that anymore. We are wrong. Alabama should not have been in there. No team that anemic in the rush game is going to be successful. And then they got flat out embarrassed.
We were talking about with the way they were ranking Notre Dame, we were talking about how they're clearly using Vegas-style power rankings. But Miami was the same thing. Like Miami, if you use the Vegas-style power rankings, Miami was favored over most of the teams in the bracket. And lo and behold, they're actually favored over Ole Miss by actual Vegas when they're playing in a semifinal. So maybe there was a reason for that. Maybe Vegas, which doesn't have a conference bias based on pride or anything else, it has a bias based on what will make us more money, which is the most honest kind of bias there is sometimes.
USA.
Yeah, they thought that Miami was better, Notre Dame was better than Alabama. They actually thought they were better than Oklahoma too. So maybe that's how it should be done. And I go back to my co-host Ari Wasserman at On3 did that mock selection one time. And this is when Bill Hancock was still running the college football playoff. And Ari brought up the idea is like, why don't you use more Vegas type metrics, more, power rankings like they used to set the line in with your other advanced stats? You could just combine them. And Bill Hancock called him a degenerate. So, but they were doing that this year. The committee was doing that more than the general public was.
It's about the purity of the student athlete experience.
The committee was clearly doing that this year and maybe needs to even incorporate it a little more.
I'm going to jump ahead of this because I know we're going to have more shows before these games are played. But
Yes.
we are on the cusp of yet another college football championship final, sans SEC.
Mm-hmm.
We need to, like, if I'm picking right now, I'm picking Miami and probably Indiana to play for the national championship.
I'd say Miami Ole Miss is pretty much a coin flip. But
sure.
yes,
but there's a chance here.
Possible.
Yeah. Also, Andy, there's a guarantee that the Big Ten will be playing for another national championship now.
Correct.
So the conversation.
It's time these SEC programs started taking football seriously, Paul.
I mean, in all seriousness, the people who should be angry right now are the Iowas, the Illinois, I just put an S on Illinois. I apologize. It's the 9-3. It's that 9-3 Big Ten team that ain't played nobody, but Alabama's.
The USC's? Except they lost to TCU?
I mean, maybe. I think about Illinois last year.
They would have had all their players in the playoff. So
I mean, I would think about I rarely do that. I screwed with Alabama fans a little bit by doing that last year where they lost the bowl game to Michigan, but obviously it was a very different team once you have opt-outs. I think the people that are upset and the people that need to make the most noise this offseason, here's what I'm learning about the Big Ten, and Ross, I think, would back me up if he was here. The Big Ten still fails to stand unified in their messaging and float all boats. There are the Crystal Palaces, right? There's the Crystal Palace of Oregon and Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan. And they don't really give two you-know-whats about the Illinois of the world or the Iowa of the world and the Wisconsin of the world. Those schools, I think, are suffering the most because the SEC's narrative is always, we're going to turn around and go, South Carolina was 9-3 last year. They deserve to be in. There's more of a rally to the ball positive narrative because of the SEC logo.
If Indiana wins the national championship, do you think the Big Ten comes around on that?
No, because I don't think the way the Big Ten is constructed. You taught me this. When I started off as a national reporter.
You should never listen to me.
Mike Slive was a grandfather gentleman and a gangster, and he ensured a certain equality, a certain socialism, if you will, inside that room, that we would always lock arms as a brand larger than any individual school. And I don't think the Big Ten in this current construction or its former construction has ever really thought that way. I don't think the ideology works the same way for a lot of non-football historical reasons with South and North. But if I'm Illinois, or if I'm this Iowa team that you mentioned is a great case study. If someone could go out and analyze all the coverage that we gave down the stretch before the final selection, I think the Big Ten is getting short shrift. I think the SEC is getting a benefit of a doubt that they have now proven they don't deserve in the new era of college football.
It is true. Now, the question is, will everybody remember that as we prognosticate for next season? Probably not. But I will remember it. And I think a lot of other people will. I think there's definitely a shift because I have told myself multiple times during this playoff season, because Ole Miss and Indiana, I think, are really good examples of this. Last year's Ole Miss team was supposed to be the one, not this one.
Right.
Well, guess what? This one is a better team. The last year might have had individually better players if you asked an NFL scout, but this is a better team.
Are they the best team in the SEC?
Well, they are. They're the only one left playing.
So here's where I'm getting at. Georgia and Alabama played for the SEC championship. Ole Miss was out because of the tiebreaker sequence. Ohio State was out of the Big Ten championship last year. They were the best team in the tournament and won the tournament. Penn State and Oregon played. I keep getting stuck on this conference championship weekend. It is not only failing to yield the information we need, I think it's hindering the process overall.
Miami didn't play for the ACC championship. Yeah, exactly.
I think we're arriving at something here, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, and the commissioners need to figure out what they want to do with it. Yeah. And look, I don't like Tony Petitti's idea of the ninth best Big Ten team automatically getting into the playoff. I'm exaggerating here. I know that's not his actual idea.
Right.
I do like his play-in idea. I think those games would be super fun.
I think they would be better. That's a step in the right direction to better reflect the quality in that moment.
I don't like the automatic bids that are required for the play-in to actually functionally work. I would prefer something that can't be done, because it would be like the old bracket busters in college basketball, where 2/3 of the way through the season, they'd be like, who do we need to see play head to head so we can figure out whether they should make it or whether they should get an at-large bid or not?
I'm scrolling to find the ninth best team, by the way.
that would be
Washington.
Spectacular.
It would have been Washington this year, 9-4.
There you go.
But again, I'm going to say this one last time. If you're Iowa, you're Illinois, you're Minnesota, Washington, Minnesota's 8-5. But like these 9-win teams in the Big Ten don't get the benefit of the doubt that the 9-win teams in the SEC have. It's been reflected now 2 years in a row. We need to correct for this. I don't know if we will. I think we'll get distracted by all the shiny noises once the 26 season starts.
Yeah, who knows? It's a long off season. We'll try to keep the flame lit. One more thing, though, Godfrey, before we go. We got to talk about the Tulsa Portal House. Best reality show on the internet, other than, of course, everything on the Yahoo Sports Network. We got to talk about the whole staff's moved into a house. You stayed in the house.
Yes.
You had no idea.
I had no idea.
Talk about it when we come back. We are back at the College Football Enquirer, and Steven Godfrey, some boots on the ground reporting that he didn't even know what he was doing.
It's the best kind, man. That's the best kind.
So if you've been paying attention to the college football zeitgeist, you may have seen the Tulsa Football Portal House, which is it's a concoction from Trey Lamb, the head coach there, and Justin Moore, the athletic director. Somewhat out of necessity, but I think it's going to be fun. So Tulsa, their campus is closed, I believe, until January 21st. Now, their football building, of course, is still open and usable. But a lot of the things you would do if you had players coming in on a visit where you would show them classrooms and what school looks like when it's going on, or some of the entertainment options that you would take them to, that's kind of shut down right now. So they had to try to figure out a way, one, to entertain recruits on visits, and two, they wanted a place to kind of centralize their work as they work on the transfer portal and try to reshape their roster. So they rented a house and moved the whole staff in. And Steven Godfrey was looking at some photos and realized, oh, wait,
I've been in that house.
Airbnb'd this house before.
Yes. My sister-in-law, Catherine, and her husband, Jesse, they're Louisianans. As I've talked about on the show before, I married into a Louisiana family, LSU. And but they both took jobs in Tulsa in the energy sector, as most people do when they moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. They just had twins. The twins had a christening on August 1st, and I flew out to Tulsa, met my wife and kids who are already out there. My father-in-law, kind of somewhat presciently, was like, hey, everybody's coming into town. Let's just get the biggest house we can and put everyone in it. It's the Tulsa. This is it. This is the Portal House. And if you have ever looked at Airbnb listings in Tulsa, you'll know why we chose this house. David Ubben over at The Athletic, he grabbed some screenshots from the listing. When you walk in the house, the traditional living room is sort of blacked out. It has this giant Oklahoma neon sign. That is I would call it maybe like the nightclub room, Andy. So there's neon lights. There's a full karaoke system with lights, which, by the way, my 5-year-old daughter loved. We listened to her sing Taylor Swift for 3 days. There is a heated pool, kind of a jacuzzi setup, and then any grass around it is actually like a putt-putt course. There are arcade machines.
Amazing.
You can tell there's been a giant addition on the back of the house to make sort of like a giant den, and it has like some 100-inch television. It is, if you took a normal 2-story house in a suburb and you let a 12-year-old renovate it. That's this house, okay? We stayed there for a couple of days. It was perfect because we had a lot of downtime. The twins, you go do the christening and then you're all kind of hanging out. You don't want to go over there because the kids are sleeping. And so it's the perfect place to do what Tulsa is allegedly going to do in there. I find this hilarious. Here's the funny part, though. Here's the exclusive scoop. Using the pool or using anything in the backyard, because the neighbors are so close to this house, there's like an 8 p.m. curfew. So you have to be really mindful of the noise. So shout out to Tulsa staff. If they're going to have guys over, I would do it maybe during like afternoon hours.
Happy hour, baby. Happy hour.
Great. Hey, great grill setup.
Can you do happy hour? Like I don't know the NCAA rules. We used to care a lot more about this stuff back in the Willie Williams days. But can you do happy hour with a 21 plus recruit? Is that legal? Is that cool? It's probably not, but
there is a bar in there. There's a bar setup in there. Like it is designed specifically for that. There's like a little fire pit. No, it's a great house. It's super fun. We were there in August, so everybody was in the Tulsa weather in January. They're not going to use that pool, right? It's heated though.
I don't. Yeah, you use a heated pool. You're going to use absolutely.
Okay. All right. I guess it's going to happen then.
Yeah. I clearly this has all been designed. So for those who don't know, there's a golf course in Tulsa called Southern Hills.
Yeah.
Hosts, PGA events. And so this is like when the PGA championship comes to Southern Hills, this house is gonna be like $5,000 a night. So that's what this is probably cooked up for. But I love the idea. I love the creativity from Trey Lamb, who is a really good football coach, an FFC as Godfrey would call him. He was at East Tennessee State before he came to Tulsa. If you don't remember, there was the hurricane that went through North Carolina and East Tennessee and flooded everything. They had this harrowing journey to try to go play the Citadel and then he had to deal with the rest of it once they got back. So it's an interesting concept, and I'm fascinated to see. And they're going to have kind of reality show, for lack of a better term,
content.
Episode 1 is already out on the Tulsa football website, but they're gonna, and I imagine as they get guys in the portal and actually get them signed and then can announce it, we might see some behind the scenes of when these people visited, and I think it'd be fun, especially if I'm a Tulsa fan, like to get to know the new players.
Yes. Also, there's an NBA Jam arcade machine in the house. I want to know right now. We're going to ask Trey Lamb. I want to know who on staff is winning that tournament.
I would never get any work done if there was an NBA Jam machine. I'm actually texting Trey Lamb right now.
I spent the entire weekend. There's an arcade kind of thing off to the side of the kitchen. It's an arcade setup. I want to know who the best NBA Jam player on staff is, because I feel like that's a bona fide. That's like an AFCA award, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are we getting old in that, like, do you think that coaches younger than us would have proficiency at NBA Jam? It's universal, right?
They're still mostly our age still. Like, okay, I guess some of them are younger, but that's one of those games where if you put a younger person who's never played it,
you can still
play it for 2 minutes. Yeah, but you play it for 2 minutes and they're like, oh my God, you're filling it up with Dan Marley. I got to try this.
My kid's favorite video game right now is NFL Blitz 2000. Because,
nice.
Because of the instant sort of like ability to pick it up and do fun, do something cool with it. So, yeah. I want to know who the best NBA Jam player is. We did leave beer in the fridge. So you're welcome, Tulsa. Ooh. I forgot about that. My brother-in-law left like a case of Modelo. That's your sponsor on On3.
That's right.
Yeah. You're welcome if it's still there.
It's time for Modelo. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the funny thing to me. This is a legit neighborhood that it's in. It's like a fairly quiet suburban area of Tulsa. How much of a sideshow this becomes is going to be really fun to watch. I'm tuned into this. We're doing an entire segment about Tulsa right now. So like in that alone makes it a success.
Yes. Yeah. And that was probably the goal of this, but it also, again, out of necessity because of the campus calendar, which another reason why, because Tulsa's not alone in this. There's a lot of schools that take an extended winter break, don't come back to school until the middle of January, where there's nothing going on campus. And so you can't, like, it's one thing, like Kentucky has these visitors. If Kentucky's got a home basketball game, you can take them to Rupp Arena and they're like, wow, this place loves sports. But it's a little bit different in other schools.
I'm trying to think of what would be going on in January around Tulsa. I mean, if there's a show at Canes, I guess. Like, I really like Tulsa. I'm not selling Tulsa short. I really like that town. It was the first time I had visited there. I really dug it.
The barbecue joints in Tulsa. One of the things they do that you're not going to find in a lot of other places: smoked bologna. And it is spectacular.
Man, I wish I could shout it out. It's my sister-in-law's favorite place. Apparently exceptionally good at burn-ins. They take the kids there all the time. But yeah, Tulsa's a cool town. I think this is a great idea from Trey Lamb. Look, college football is at its best. Do we have to say this every week? When it's weird. And this is something that's new and fun and weird. So congratulations to Tulsa in advance. I hope it works. I hope they actually they upgrade in talent.
Well, what'll be funny is when Missouri tries to one-up it, when Eli Drinkwitz is like, well, that was a good idea. I'm stealing it, and now we're renting a mansion. Like, we're renting one of the houses from Ozark.
Yeah, but by the time it trickles down into the SEC, it's going to be like buying out a casino or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's listen, that's the beauty of college football. Somebody at a lower level has a great idea. Yeah. Somebody at an upper level throws money at the idea. That is how college football operates.
Yeah, that's basically how every playbook has evolved, and now this is a new kind of playbook.
Speaking of playbooks, we will get back into the actual playbooks on Tuesday because we will preview the college football playoff semifinals, Fiesta Bowl, Miami, Ole Miss, the Peach Bowl, Indiana, Oregon. There are 4 left. Any of those 4, I think, could win the national championship, and that makes this a whole lot of fun. I'll talk to you about it on Tuesday.